I want to talk to you about something that certainly is a challenge that I face, and it just might be one that you face. How do you keep from being so distracted in this day and age with all the noise that's going on around us? I want to talk about this, and from the perspective of these are some ideas and ways that I am learning in 2023 to be more focused and less distracted by the many things that I get distracted by. And I have, first of all, 3 R's, and then I want to talk about how do you actually live less distracted than perhaps you might be. So let's jump in. The 3 R's of the Undistracted Leader starts with, the first R is we need to remember to rest in who we are, not in what we do. I think for us to be able to be more focused and more purposeful and more directed in our living, we need to come back to our identity. There's a breath prayer that I often repeat when I'm feeling a little bit out of sorts and my mind is going in a million directions. It's, loving Father, I am your beloved Son. Teach me to rest and remain in you. We need to learn to rest in who we are, not find rest from what we do. Because when are we ever done? When are we ever finished what we need to do? We always have more we can do. So learning to rest in who we are, I believe, is at the very core of living an undistracted life. And a life that's filled with joy and peace and the kinds of qualities that we want to have and we want to share with others. So the first R in the undistracted life is learning how to rest more profoundly. Second R is remember your purpose. I love the story of Nehemiah. It's a great book whenever you and I are working in situations where there's a big mess and we need help to rebuild what's been broken. And that's not unlike situations that you find yourself in transition. But listen to these words in chapter 6 of Nehemiah. He's there just working really hard, and then he has Sanballat and Tobiah and all these troublemakers are there. And it says in verse 2, so Sanballat and Geshem sent a message asking me to meet them at one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But I realized they were plotting to harm me. They were distracting him. They were plotting to harm me, so I replied by sending this message to them. I am engaged in a great work, so I can't come. Why should I stop working to come and meet with you? In other words, Nehemiah knew his purpose. He knew what he was called to do. And I love this play on words in verse 2. They were wanting him to go and meet them in Ono, and he said, oh no, I'm not going down there. Because my purpose is clear, I know what I'm about. And I think as we as leaders, and even as we live our lives for Jesus, if we know why we are existing, to live out this calling upon our lives, to be Christ followers, to be lovers of people, to be prayerful, to be thoughtful, to be purposeful, then that will help to eliminate some of the distractions that take us away from the purpose and the calling on our lives. So rest in who you are, not in what you do. Remember your purpose. Think of Nehemiah. The third R is to remove distractions. And I think it's easier to remove the distractions when we have done the other R's. If we know who we are and we have a purpose that's clear, then we can see, now this does not align with who I am and what I'm called to do. So therefore, I'm going to set that off to the side. Whatever those distractions may be. If it's people or projects or ideas or good things, but they're enemies of the best things that we should be focusing in on. So here's a word I want to give you. And I heard this many years ago and I've used it often. As I, this year, set my intention to live more undistracted than I have other years. That's actually the word of the year for me this year. But here's the word focus. And I just want you to think about it in a couple of ways, or in 5 ways. So find one course until successful. Because the key with living an undistracted life as a leader, leading congregations, leading families, leading teams and communities, is we need to be able to work on one thing at a time. Yeah, we need to know where we're going and what our purpose is and what our plans are. But we need to be able, when we're actually in the trenches doing the work, living out on purpose the activities and the projects and working with the people, we need to be able to find one course until successful. We need to know what we are to do. And we need to do one thing at a time. I often set my watch for so many minutes and I work on this one thing until I'm complete. And I don't let myself do other things. At least that's my intention. I don't always succeed perfectly, but it's doing one thing at a time. Multitasking is a myth. There's books written on that. You can't do more than one thing at a time well. Now, that doesn't mean that you have a number of things lined up end to end, but you just can't do it all, and the distractions need to be removed out of our lives to get that one thing done. Nehemiah said, "Don't bother me. I'm doing this one thing. I am building the wall." Find one course, knowing what that course is, having the conversations, even with congregations. What is our course? What is our plan? If you don't have a plan and a purpose, then it's hard to find that one course. So this requires conversation, reflection, prayer, thoughtfulness to find the one course. But find your one course personally in your leadership until, that's a great word, perseverance, that never quit attitude. And if it's time to quit, well, then decide that and quit. But usually distractions will take us away from the perseverance that's required to get those purposeful activities and projects and conversations through to completion. Find one course until successful. I love this definition of success: finding God's will and doing it. So for you, as you continue on in your 2023, now it's February, may you learn to live less and less the distracted life and be a leader that is undistracted by the things, the many things that are good, but they're not the best and they're not what God has called you to do, called me to do. May this encourage you and inspire you just to continue taking the time to stay focused on the things that God has called you to do. And if it requires some work in the area of rest, in the area of purpose, in the area of some distraction removal, then may you find strength from doing that work so that you can actually focus on the things that you're called to do. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.